With the FV4005 now out of the way, it's time to come home and get back to finishing all those other little projects that we'd started. Like Concrete Chieftain, like the T34, like the Golden Eye, like Warminster, and all those other bits and pieces. But sadly, before I could start all that, I've got to do something I absolutely hate. And that's work on cars. And what's even worse, working on my own cars. This is my Bentley Turbo R, and unfortunately, it's quite broken in more ways than one. So, I used it at Jack's wedding a couple of weeks back, and the day before the wedding, in the car park, it was leaking engine oil all over the place. Looked like the Torrey Canyon had exploded. And it turns out that this pipe here, which is the main engine oil cooler pipe, goes from the oil filter down the side of the chassis into this oil cooler here somewhere. That had sprung a leak, and we had nothing we could do other than go to Halfords and bodge it in the finest possible way, which I chose lots of chemical metal, some water hose, and a Jubilee clip, which you can see in there. Now, that did actually hold it for a little while, and then I forgot that actually I'd bodged it, and then we started using it a bit more, and then it started being sick again. So then I thought, well, actually, you know, I'll actually mend it. So I brought it in here, jacked it up, and thought, right, I'll take that pipe off and get that repaired. Then I realised that the front coil spring is snapped. So that wasn't ideal. Then I took that out with great difficulty. Definitely didn't nearly smash the windscreen in the process. And I've realised that the actual bracket that holds some of the suspension components together is looking a bit like it could do with welding soon. So I'm going to make a bit of a video today fixing said Bentley. Anyway, so I went to Flying Spares and they sorted it out with a big box of new bits and pieces. In here we hopefully have some new springs. They were really easy to work with, to be fair. Just one phone call, gave them the chassis number, they knew exactly what the car it was. And annoyingly, because this is a long wheelbase, the bigger car, the heavier car, it has heavier springs, and of course they're more expensive than the normal ones. Excellent. But anyway, so to be honest, they gave us a real good price on the parts, and they have pretty much everything you could ever wish for. But the list price for this pipe here was just a bit expensive even for me. I am a farmer after all, or a farmer's son. So I went to Bonding and Reline and said, can you make it out of flexible? There'll be a lot of people here going, oh, we should never do that. But we're going to do it because I can't even tell you how expensive that pipe is. Eye-wateringly. The only problem the only thing that could be a problem is it sort of runs under the front fan pulley and then over the chassis arm, and the front tyre will get close here. So I'm hoping that we can use some P-clips and hold it in a position where when you turn full lock it doesn't try and rub its way through the engine oil cooler pipe. That could be the only problem with that. If that is the case, I will have to bite the bullet and buy the genuine pipe from Rolls Royce, which is a bit sickly. But most of the bits and pieces I got from Flying Spares, like the springs, which I haven't had out yet, so these things are massive. Right, one spring, front road spring. This is, I feel like Matt Armstrong here, messing around with cars. Well, that's quite enough waffling away. I've now removed the dampener itself, which actually wasn't too bad. There's a wire that goes all the way up there and around places, but I have noticed some small corrosion. We have a hole there, which, you know, it only holds all the suspension arms together. All of this is looking quite flaky rusty, so I'm going to get the needle gun out. I'm going to go over all of that. You see where that oil cooler hose, there's the other one. I don't think that's quite as rotten, but yeah, it's going to come down there somewhere. So you can see I've just got to worry about the front wheel hitting it, but we'll get that out of the way. We'll deal with this problem first, then we'll deal with that. Now let's have a look at the strut itself. So the spring presses down on here, and there should be a top hat here, and that's nowhere to be seen. That's actually stuck in the original spring. Don't know why this phone cannot focus, but yeah, that's stuck in there, which isn't brilliant. So this is the bit that was astronomically expensive because that come from Bentley. There's the new piece, and you can see the difference there. So we're going to have to cut that off and throw it away. Fit the new cup on. It's a bit dirty. I might just clean the whole thing up before I put it together. Anyway, enough waffling. I think we're going to have to resort to plan B. You see, there's a slight difference in the pair. I'd hate to think how much Bentley would have charged to have done that. Probably £6 million. Right, after a quick needle gun and a wire wheel, I've cleaned the dampener up, and it's actually not in bad condition. It looked a lot worse than what it was. So I'm going to fit this top hat, and then what I might do is then just paint it and try and tap this on evenly. Just so people can get the full idea of just how far these springs have got to be compressed. Oh my god, it weighs an absolute ton. Bearing in mind there's got to be a rubber boot on there. So that's like pretty much the same size as most car springs, because you'll be doing it to about there. Yeah, we've got to compress it as much as a standard car spring, just to get it even on the dampener. We've gone for Halford's gloss black. I'm only really doing that just so it doesn't rust away instantly. I'm going to put a load of coats on that. I couldn't actually care less what that looks like, but it looks a lot less knackered now. Well, we've done a bit of needle gunning. You see some of the steel work there is getting quite thin, but this is my main concern. Yeah, there's a literal hole in it, and if that rips off, that strut's going to go in and smash the exhaust manifold. So I'm going to have to fabricate a new triangle gusset to strengthen that up before we go any further.
Always remember, when you weld into a car or anything fairly modern with an ECU, disconnect the battery first.
Oh yeah, some of the best welding ever made.
I then nipped over to see my friend borrow his spring compressor that didn't quite fit.
Right, so we've put a bit of Halford's black on there. That looks really, really professional. But we're just trying to stop a little bit of conversion. I've also dropped the strut down from the top. That was really easy. Straight down onto the ball joint at the bottom of the dampener. That'll all line up now. So we've just got to put the washer and castle nut and the split pin on the bottom there. The wire off the dampener, that should be it. I need to just turn that a bit. But the wire for the dampener's all plugged back in. Don't know what that does. Someone will tell me. I have no idea what that wire's for. But yeah, so that's all back together. So the next thing I've got to do is do up the ring of bolts on the turret, and you can see that's off center. It's just the way we got it in the clamp. To compress it down, we only managed to get it on. So I'm going to bolt this ring up tight, and I'm going to slacken that back off. It shouldn't fire in my face, and then I can reposition the rubbers because they look like they're pretty unhappy under there. I also took some of these relays out just to get at these here because they're a bit difficult, but yeah, it's pretty straightforward to be honest. Well, after practice every swear word in the human dictionary, I've got my bodged oil pipe on, and it was an absolute nightmare. I do think that the tyre is going to hit that, but we shall see. It'll only be a temporary measure anyway. I think I'm going to put a new oil cooler and I'll fit it there, and I'll completely change all the lines, but yeah, that is that repaired union. So I had to cut that union in half with a grinder, slit it to actually undo it because the steel had corroded with the aluminium. What a terrible design. And of course, because it's a car hydraulic thread, normal hydraulic plates don't have them ends, so we just had to weld it up and reuse it. So that was a real pain in the backside, but it's on, and I did it without taking the bumper off, which was, yeah, absolutely horrendous. So I'm going to do the brake pads at a later date because I don't want to change too many things and then end up with other problems. So let's put the wheels back on, see if that's going to foul, and see how the car sits. Well, that's the jacks out, and it is looking a lot better than it did before. That's never worked before. That's good.
Working a bit down here, so it's burning a bit of oil off now, isn't it?
Well, I probably spilt stuff. Well, it is a Bentley, it's going to leak oil. That looks no end better. Before, you couldn't get your fist in between the wheel and the arch. You could get about like, well, you could get in like that. That archway was like, yeah. But now you can, well, it looks a lot better. I'm just worried whether with the tyre on full lock. Do you want to just turn the car full lock? It's very, very close to touching it. Well, that's that all back together now, mainly because Mum needs it, and the other reason is I need it out the workshop because I need to move all this junk here, and I'm going to bring the T34 engine in, ready to start putting that back together. So ages ago, before we did the FV4005, we started to take two engines to bits, one of our original T34 engine and one of the T55, and we're going to try and make a decent T34 engine out of the two engines. So we'll be back on with that project, and I want that to take place over there. So all this has got to go. Again, thanks to Flying Spares for doing us a real good price on all the Bentley bits and pieces we needed. I have also got the other spring, which I'll do when I get a bit more time, and brake pads and bits and pieces. So huge thanks to them. If you do need anything for Bentley or Rolls Royce, especially these older ones, they are the people to speak to. And also, what I want to get on with is, of course, this is the Concrete Chieftain. There's a few bits we want to do to this. So it's all up and running now, but there is no exhaust pipe fitted. There's a fan belt pulley that needs sorting out. I'll show you now. That pulley's bent, and when the engine started up, all it did was chuck the belt straight off. So I'm going to have to replace that pulley, put the belt on. There is a breather here. I accidentally snapped the bolt off in the head, so I'm going to have to extract that, put the breather pipe on, which is somewhere, I think it's up there somewhere. Fit that, and the fuel system. So Seb's cleaned out these fuel tanks. There's 4 tanks on a Chieftain. You've got one there, same the other side. There's a bit of a partition in between, in the middle, but they are linked. So we've cleaned all the fuel tanks out. I'm going to make my own fuel system for this, just a nice simple one. So we're going to link all the tanks together, and we're going to put like a decent fuel pump and then straight into the engine. So that'll be slightly better than a ticker pump off a Kubota and a 20-litre fuel can, which is what it's currently running off. So yeah, so there's plenty of little bits to do on this. Yeah, I know it's all minging and disgusting. What we're going to do, like we said before, we're going to run this tank and just use it this year for the show season. And there's a main reason, because the main reason I want to do that is because the tracks are very, very seized. So all these track pins, they're still quite seized. And the reason for that is this track on this tank is actually in real good condition. So there's hardly any wear between the bushing, if you like, and the pin, which means there's tiniest bit of corrosion and they're seized fairly solid. So with a bit of use, you know, that's why we want to get it up and running, get it reliable, use it. That'll allow those tracks to free off. We can tighten them up, which would then mean we can fit the mud guards and stuff back on. Because at the moment, if we were to use it, that you can see that the track bounces up. It actually gets close to ripping some of the mud guards off. So it's just one of those things. Going to have to use it a bit, and then we'll bring it back in the workshop maybe after show season, pull all the engine and gearbox out, make everything lovely, pop it all back in, do the outside, and it should be a real nice tank. Yeah, put the exhaust pipe end on. Well, that was all taken off because inside the exhaust box was full of concrete and several house bricks, so we had to get in there to get that out. So that can go back on, and we will put some straight through exhaust on this, so it'll sound really meaty at the shows. So yeah, so we've got that coming. We've also got some cool stuff coming with the D9 bulldozer. I've got a big plan for that, which I'll announce in a video soon. And yeah, it will be nice to get back on with the T34 because people keep asking about that. We haven't forgot about it. So yeah, in the next couple of videos coming up, we'll be starting on the T34 engine again, doing bits of the Chieftain, and maybe I'm going to look at the GoldenEye Chieftain. We've got that to look at. We've got loads of things to look at. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again in another video.